day. Today I'm coming at you guys with a conversation regarding VR and the Metaverse. But before we get started, if you are liking the content you're seeing here, if you enjoy blockchain-based games, if you enjoy virtual land or Metaverse conversations, consider subscribing to the channel, guys. I would really appreciate it, and it goes a long way to supporting me, supporting the content I bring you guys. And again, if you find value in it, do yourself the favor of subscribing and making sure to come back when I post new videos. Also, just a quick reminder, guys, that the NFT giveaway is still going, so if you haven't entered that already, make sure to watch the weekly Metaverse update that I posted last Friday. It'll give you all the entry steps, and then this Friday I'll be picking some winners to receive NFTs. All right, guys, so let's jump right into the topic of today's video. So like I mentioned, when the conversations arise regarding metaverses, quite oftentimes the term or the discussion of VR is something that kind of parallels that conversation, and it's something that the conversation generally seems to evolve into. But is VR as essential to the metaverse as some would have you believe? Let's explore that thought and the overall concept of a VR-reliant metaverse. So I think before we get started, a reminder of the definition of a metaverse is probably in order. So by definition, a metaverse is a virtual reality space in which users can interact with a computer-generated environment and other users. So with that definition, let's explore the idea of virtual reality when it comes to metaverses, whether or not it's required, whether or not it's a deal breaker, and what we can expect in the future. So the first thing to discuss when we talk about VR, and specifically metaverses, is the graphical limitations that currently come into play with VR. Now granted, there are very high-end virtual reality headsets on the market right now, but the most consumer accessible headsets, the Oculus Quests, the HTC Vives, especially the Oculus Quest 2, which is being pushed really hard by Facebook right now. Each of these devices seem to be limited in terms of their graphical and performance ability. The graphics aren't on par with a PC, a Mac, consoles, or even a Nintendo Switch. And I think right now this kind of highlights the fact that we still are technologically limited by the tools that we have to make a fully immersive metaverse experience work from a VR perspective. Now you've probably heard this before. You've probably heard variants of this conversation or of this topic being mentioned, that Ready Player One's a ways out and things like The Matrix are a ways out. But I don't think it's necessarily for the specific reasons that people think, because as a whole we have a lot of individual technology that can accomplish a lot of those things. From a graphical perspective, obviously VR headsets have a long way to go before they rival that of consoles and PCs. And from a challenge perspective, this is probably the easiest challenge to overcome, because again, while the technology exists, it's just about figuring out how to get it into a small enough package to fit on someone's face. So I think once they establish that, or once they figure out how to do that and take all of the components that you would see in a high-end gaming PC, for example, and be able to fit those into a VR headset, I think once that's done, we'll at least be at the technological level capable of producing an experience or a graphical experience on par with what we would expect from a VR metaverse. And that leads me to my next point, and that is adoption and accessibility. And while VR is cool and still holds a ton of potential, it's still very much a niche concept. Now, many people are becoming more and more familiar with virtual reality and virtual reality headsets, largely thanks to platforms like Facebook really bringing it into the consumer level and presenting it to the consumer as something that's an option, as something that's out there. And before large companies were really pushing this, obviously VR was not really accessible at the consumer level at all. So like them or not, in many ways we have a company like Facebook to thank for really progressing the idea of VR being a mainstream concept. And while they are pushing it hard, it still obviously lags far behind consoles, mobile, and PC in terms of platforms or mediums that users prefer to utilize when interacting with a game. And while VR seems like the ultimate resolution to a gaming experience, I think there are a lot of people who forget that there are many people who can't utilize VR for a variety of reasons, whether that be a handicap or a personal issue, motion sickness, claustrophobia. There's a lot of different reasons why people can't utilize VR headsets right now and probably never will be able to. And that part specifically is very important, because if we're trying to create something that needs to be accessible by everybody, then things like motion sickness, which are a very common thing, that can't be a barrier in the way of trying to access your platform. If you want everyone to access and utilize and enjoy your platform, you can't restrict it by making it a requirement that people have a specific piece of very restrictive technology in order to enjoy and engage with said experience. So I think it's very important that we remember there's a lot of people that can't use VR for, again, a variety of reasons, whether that be health related or preference, personal preference, or just people that have a general uneasiness of having their view of the outside world completely restricted. Then you add in the price, and while prices have come down quite a bit, it's still pretty expensive to buy a VR headset just for the VR aspect of it. Oculus Quest 2, for example, I believe at its cheapest is $300 for the lower end storage model, which isn't that expensive, but it is expensive when you think about the fact that it's a very unique and specific platform that only has a very limited number of uses right now. Your 60-year-old or 70-year-old grandparent might not find much use of an Oculus Quest 2 headset because those experiences might just be beyond what they're interested in. Or it might not carry the types of platforms, applications, or games that would be useful to a person of that age group. And so I really do think that, again, VR is very limiting in many of its aspects. And that leads me to the main point of this video, and that is that I personally do not believe VR will be the medium that we utilize in the metaverse long term. Oftentimes when we think of a metaverse or talk about the metaverse, we draw the Ready Player One comparison. And while I think that's a great comparison to the overall concept, I think there's a few things that we forget here. And the first thing is that Ready Player One works great from a Hollywood perspective, but reality is often much different. And there is definitely an innate draw to the outside world. I mean, the reality is that people are drawn to the outside world. People are drawn back to reality. And I mean, as just an example, if you wanted to go to Walmart right now, you could probably find an Oculus Quest 2, but you'd be pretty hard up trying to find a canoe or a kayak because they're sold out everywhere right now because people are out and about and people are enjoying outside. And so this is one reason why I think that the Ready Player One comparison is a bit exaggerated and a bit Hollywoodized. And I do really think that a better comparison, or a better movie, if you were going to use Hollywood examples, would probably be Minority Report. Because I feel like that level of engagement and that level of accessibility is much more secondhand than a VR headset. So let me elaborate on my thought here. VR headsets are extremely restrictive. You can only utilize them when you're not moving, or if you're moving in a very confined space. You can't utilize them while you're walking through an airport. I mean, you could, but you'd probably hurt yourself or somebody else. You can't wear a VR headset while you're on a run. You probably aren't going to be walking through Disney World with an Oculus Quest 2 on your face. So while VR is great for transporting a person to a place, it's very limited in what it can be utilized for when a person is in motion. And people like to be in motion. And that is why I do believe that augmented reality and not VR is going to be the medium that really pushes us into that full-on metaverse experience. And I kind of liken VR to BlackBerries. If you think about the smartphone experience, when we were trying to transform that smartphone experience, the BlackBerry was very much a bridge-style device. It bridged the gap between flip phones with buttons and the touchscreen phones that we would eventually know and love. And I do very much think that VR is a very similar example of that right now. It is the first iteration of that next level of technology. And I do very much think that augmented reality will be the medium that we utilize most often when it comes to experiencing the metaverse. And that's because I believe it allows the most accessibility and the most movement, while also allowing the most hands-off integration. People don't have to seek out the metaverse if you're utilizing something that's augmented reality and that you're utilizing on a daily basis. The metaverse can seek you out, and I think that that's something that's very important. Because you can't force a person to put a VR headset on and then go walking through Disney World. That's not going to work. But if a person decides they want to go there on their own, what's brought to them without them deciding is much more favorable, I think, from a altered experience perspective. And I do really believe that in order for a metaverse to be successful, it has to be something that's not really thought about as much when it's accessed. And while we have different versions of that, we definitely have different variations and different versions of metaverses in terms of what's possible and in terms of how you would interact with said metaverse. But I think when we come back to the full-on 3D, self-enveloping, Ready Player One style metaverse, I don't really think that VR is going to be the end-all be-all for that. And I do very much think that because of our constant need to be in motion as a people, that we are going to gravitate toward augmented reality because it provides the best of both worlds. It provides an existing view of our reality while providing an augmented or additional experience over top of that. And it gives people the choice. It gives people the choice to choose what they want to focus on. You aren't focusing on one thing or another. You are choosing consciously if you want to pay attention to the now, to the reality, or to the metaverse, to the infinite lack of reality that exists. And I think that's very important. I think that the accessible medium, or the medium that we use to access said metaverse, is going to be just as, if not more important than the metaverse experience itself, because how it integrates with your daily life is extremely important to how it's adopted, how people utilize it, and obviously to its long-term success. So when I think about the metaverse and how we will access the metaverse, I don't really think about putting on a VR headset to transport myself to someplace else, only where I am. I think about putting on an AR headset that allows me to transform my experience wherever I go. And I do very much think that the smart companies, the companies that are aware of this, are already positioning themselves. You can look at companies like Microsoft with the HoloLens AR headset, or you can look at things like Apple, who are working on their own augmented reality headset, or Snapchat, or the Vuzix AR glasses that are coming out later this year. It's obviously a very popular technology to be looked into right now, and I think the companies that are really forward-facing are positioning themselves to be prepared not for the VR revolution, but for the much larger AR revolution that comes immediately following that. Another great example is Vivi. They have a very different take on the classic collectibles mindset, on the classic collectibles experience, and they do so in a very much AR-based setting. And I do think that platforms like that are really going to be able to evolve nicely as those mediums that we utilize and the technology that we use to access those platforms improves. So if I had to choose between AR and VR, guys, I'm going AR. I think AR is the way here. I know this is a bit of a long-form video, a little bit of a self-opinionated video when it comes to the end specifically, but I really do feel like everything is moving toward augmented reality being the main medium, being the main experience that really bolsters all of these metaverses and makes them more than what we've seen before. Because again, we've seen VR already, we've seen what VR can do, and we've also seen some of the limitations of VR, and I really do think that an augmented view of our current reality is much more appealing than a controlled view of someone else's developed reality. And so that is the reason why I think this is going to be the main catalyst. I do think that AR will be the main catalyst for metaverses, and I think until we hit a point where AR is accessible, we probably won't see metaverses as we know and love them really take off, or as we expect them to be. We won't really see them take off until that point. I know that if I had to choose between sitting in a room with a VR headset on or walking into a blank room that comes to life when I put on my AR glasses, I would choose the AR glasses because I can still see reality while also seeing things I know and love. And so I think we should start thinking about things like that. And I think this is kind of a discussion that was worth having now because I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on it and on what side of the fence you fall on in terms of whether or not you think VR is a requirement for a metaverse or you think the ultimate medium that we access it on will be AR, because that's my personal opinion, guys. But again, I want to hear your thoughts down below. So let me know what you guys think of this. If you guys like this video, make sure to smash that thumbs up button. I try to come up with unique concepts and unique ideas and concepts to discuss with you guys because I think these are the things that we're going to have to think about as time progresses and as these metaverse applications and experiences and platforms progress. So definitely let me know your thoughts there, guys. Other than that, guys, I want to thank you for checking out this video. Don't forget to comment on that last video I posted on Friday and get entered for that NFT giveaway, guys. I want to make sure you don't miss out on that. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and until next time, we'll see you soon.
It wouldn't let, like, I have nothing. Back out. It's either got to break out or I'm going to bail out. So I bailed out on that. And I got back in. Sold off now. You can see here. It's possible this is the top pre-market.
Computer
room. Fade out of the gates. You know, it's hard to say for sure. But
really nice.
A gaming room? Some people who might have been swing trading it to the short side, hoping to get a secondary offering and thinking, listen, this has no business being up this much over the last 3 days. For those that don't remember, there was a stock RKDA that did something similar. We can go back on this again. It's, you know, just be aware of the risk of shorting stocks. And there was someone who
Hey there, I'm KJ Walker from the Polymodels World, and wow, we just need to take a minute to talk about Decentraland because it has come so far. Wow, I mean, we all expected great things, but I think we're all still blown away by the incredible Metaverse festival that we've just had, which brought some amazing artists to this platform, and also some incredible projects and quests are happening, like the Wonder Quest by Alice in Wonderland. Amazing musician, artist, performer, DJ, and my team at Low Poly Models have the absolute honor of working with her on the Wonder Quest and creating these monthly quests in Decentraland and concerts and light events, and wow, we are so stoked. It's absolutely amazing. But hey, what we're here to talk about is wearables. There have been a lot of developments on the platform as of late, so without further ado, let's get into making some wearables. So the first thing I'd recommend is heading over to www.docs.decentraland.org, and there you can check out the latest information on wearables, okay? This gets updated, as I mentioned before, as the platform is growing, and you can always find the latest information here in these different sections, like wearables overview, creating wearables, publishing wearables, the curation committee, and the editor user guide. You can find some of the reference models down here, wearables reference models, which opens up this fab folder by Shibu, and in examples you can find a series of different categories, and inside a little demo model which you can open with Blender and study it, figure out how it works, how the weight works, and translate that to your own model. Like I said, what we're going to do today is make a hat, and in here we don't have a hat reference model. So if we do a quick Google for Decentraland GitHub avatar assets, it will come up straight away. Okay? So not tricky to find, and we want to navigate straight to assets, and here we have a series of collections. I'm going to go straight into the DCL launch collection. I'm going to open up the hat folder, and let's download the DCL hat. And we can take a look at the different file extensions. We've got two PNGs, which are image files, a JSON, which is a code file, and two GLBs, which are 3D models. And the only difference between them is the F and the M. So this stands for a female or a male. And this is because the original avatar system was set up with some differences in body shape between these two default avatars. So most of the time when we're creating an asset, we're going to be creating two versions of that asset. One that fits a standard female body shape and one that fits a standard male body shape. Obviously this is so not representative of our current culture, and we definitely want to add a lot more categories, or preferably a scalar, so that we just add this binary, because there's no need for them to be. Let's download both of these, the female hat and also the male hat in GLB.
Hey, how are you?
Awesome, we've got them. Okay, so we can open up Blender. I've just got a new scene here, and you can see the buttons that I'm pressing just here in the bottom of the scene. First of all, let's just delete everything that we've got on the scene. With A to select everything, X to delete, and we'll hit
are these
enter.
old or inspired?
So let's go to File, Import, and we're going to select a GLTF 2.0 in parentheses, GLB or GLTF. And we can navigate through and find our models that we've just downloaded. You can also drag and drop if you don't want to search through your system. And let's import the female version. You'll notice that we have a few different elements here. Take a look. We have this, which is an armature, basically a set of planes that will be used to rig the model and control its movement in the right? The it's basically these bones that are controlling our movement. So we're going to have to adapt anything we create to these bones to make sure that it moves in sync with other items. Okay, and aside from the skeleton or armature, we can now go into edit mode with tab, and you'll see that we have a lot of loose geometry here. That's because we imported it as a GeoGebra file. Now we can easily change that by selecting everything with A, going to mesh,
Oh, look, it says Skittles right there. Skittles. Oh, these are Skittles, Dada.
Skittles. And that will remove any triangles that don't necessarily need. We can remove a few more, but it's not absolutely necessary. Okay, so we have a cat here, but as you'll notice, it's looking a little bit. There's some bumpy bits, some lines. So let's go to the object data properties, and we will go to geometry data and clear custom split normals. That's going to take us right back down to flat shading, so we can make that a bit smoother by going right click, shade smooth, and we can adjust the amount of smoothness here in the normals tab by just increasing the angle. Now you'll notice there are still some areas that look a little bit different. This is because of normals. So each plane has a direction. Let me grab the pencil. It can either face outwards or it could face inwards. Say like this. Okay? And what we want is for all our faces to be going outside rather than inside. How do we check that all our planes are facing in the right direction? Easy. We can go up here into overlays and come all the way down here to face orientation and enable this. And we'll see that some areas are blue and some areas are red. Basically, we want everything to be blue and nothing to be red. I'm just going to remove these quads here. Well, not quads, but polygons. Because we don't want them. Okay, so the quickest way for us to flip all our normals once would be to select everything with A and then go Shift N, which will automatically reset the normals. Now it's not a perfect process, so we can go in manually and adjust a few elements here. Let's grab these, do another Shift N, and you'll notice here we've got a little properties panel. If we change and check here, check inside, that will then change the direction in which they're facing. Cool. So let's do the same up here. And any red faces we'll get rid of, or we'll flip the other way. See, this is fine because this is the same plane, but we're not seeing this side of it. We're just seeing the back side. Cool.
What I'm going to do, I'm just going to hold right now, I'm holding 3,600 shares. The high is 2275. I'm going to put an order at 23. Well, it's broken to 23. So now I'm just going to let it squeeze, and once it starts to form a 1 minute pullback, that's where I look to add. $3 a share would be pretty impressive, but let's see what it does. So we've got a high now of 23.47. So this is a dip right now. We want to see whether it holds 22. So again, I'm in at $20.65. So now I'm up over $1 a share. Let's pull back a little bit. The high there is 47. It's a red doji, but fortunately on lighter volume. So I'm going to watch for a dip trade. The high is 23.47. So this was the first 5-minute candle make a new high. It broke right here at 20 and then did a 1 minute pullback, and then that was the entry for 20. give it a second to consolidate. What we have going for us is increase in volume right here. This is the first 1 minute pullback. Typically, the first 1 minute pullback that gets followed. So this candle has a high of 25. So I'm long there. I just added for the break back over 23. So I'm going to go with 23 and then up through the highs. I'd like to see a test of 24. So my cost basis has now moved from 22 to 28. So the high of this candle right there is 23.80. So 23.80 is watching. Add right there 22.20 to anticipate the break through the $0.50. And now I'm looking for this to squeeze up to 24. So I'm looking for that break of 23.50 and then a test of 24. I'm holding 3,000 shares at 22.47. The cost basis has moved up a little bit. So what I typically do on those type of breakouts is I add, and I sell, and I add back, and I sell. So I scale in, I scale out, I scale back in, I scale back out. The high of this candle now is 23.80, so I put my new order at the high. I can just move it up from 23.80 to 24. So we still have 8 minutes to the bell. That was the first 1 minute candle to make a new high. Decreasing volume on that candle is a little bit of something to be cautious of. I sold the rest at 22.50 for right now, which is break even. So I'll let it pull back. The low back here was 21.55. So I might put an order at like 21.55 to do a dip trade on it. But this might set up a 5 minute pattern and then we can do another trade at the open. So I'm green on COHN, I'm red on UOME, and we've got about 7 minutes to the bell. This one's one that's going to tie up a little bit of buying power because it's a more expensive stock. Let's look back at UOME for a second while this comes back. So again, I'm going to draw up this. Just want to watch it down here. I'm just going to watch down here and see if we get a bounce, a double bottom. The only problem is that it's a red topping tail on the 5 minute at the moment. So I think the best case would be that it bounces back up towards 23. I don't know that it goes back through the highs on a dip trade down here. But that's support. So 21.55 is definitely support. If it breaks, then obviously it's breaking support at the equals. But if it holds, then it's possible. So yes, I agree. Decreasing volume is not ideal. High last 1 minute candle is 22.28. That's 75 cents off the low. So I don't think I'm going to take that. So when stocks are really wild, like UONE, I usually 50-cent stocks. So I set my stocks farther out.
Hello?
Carries more risk. Shares that if I
hear me?
lose 50 cents a share,
What's up, brother?
2,000 shares, whatever it is.
This is crazy. Sure.
So this is back down here, watching.
Okay, like the pattern?
So I just bought that dip of $21.
How much?
I got a nice starter. Now I want to see the first candle make a new high. Now that I'm already in the starter, I can add. And that would be over. Just add right there 22.30. Okay, so now I look for this to retest 23. Over $23. Then
Great.
I would add
So how much will it be?
for a break from 23.50 and 24. So watching up here,
Depends. I gotta see who won, you know?
There we go. There's a nice break.
Uh-huh.
So that's what I
Yeah.
want to see. Now the next target's 23.50. So let's see if we guys.
But like for one, how much it would be?
That's on the buy button. Watching level 2. Watching. Adding right there at 23. We'll break to 23.25. And then I want to see 23.50. Flips 23.30. Our market high right now is 23.80. So
I just want to know, but I can tell the people, you know, like I don't have to tell them buy 5, 6, you
So
know.
that was a dip, entry and broke support, and I bought that dip, which I often like to do. The new high is 23.29.
200.
So I'm gonna let this pull back for a second. I just added
Okay, that'll make $50.
30. And now I'm looking for some break.
Okay, that's good.
50 and then squeeze $200. So this is obviously showing a lot of strength right now. So watching
Mhm.
23.50. Watching 23.19 on the ask.
Yeah.
25 added right there. Now I'm looking for this to squeeze through 24.
And why? It's different? Why? It's like different color or something?
So I'm still holding my full position.
Oh, why one?
Break through $24.
I tried it before, I never liked it that much.
Pull back. And I put the trade for 24. Watching.
Yeah, it's more clear. It's more, it got less nappa.
Trying to be aggressive on this.
Mm-hmm.
Going to ride this momentum as much as possible.
Yeah.
So the next level is 23.
Okay.
Next one is 24.
Mm-hmm.
24.50 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what this does.
I'm gonna, you know, maybe I'll get one for me.
I'll save this one.
And what about the chocolate? You got chocolate? The shrooms.
So that's a little bit of a rejection off.
And how much will it be for me?
I'm still holding at 23.02, 63 shares. We've got 2.5 minutes to the bell. I didn't sell any over 24 right now. It's kind of a bummer, but sometimes
Yeah.
that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so at this point we have, it's a little extended, but I still think at the open is worth watching. Still only 16
100
shares.
chocolates.
To decide whether I'm going to add on this dip down here. Again, I'm going to
Maybe-
put my disclaimer for those on YouTube and Facebook.
Maybe I'm looking like around 4 or 5 to see, you know? 15.
Watching.
So that would be what, like $60? For 4? Okay, I'm gonna let you know.
I'm still holding at 20.
And how everything good?
Shares. Holding on that position.
Hello?
I
I said how everything is good?
could be wrong. I want to let the market open.
That's
and see
good.
what happens, but at a gates.
I was about to go to work soon.
You might have a little bit of profit taking, and then surf. May or may
You
not
what?
see a fall, I'm not sure.
So you moving?
So I'm cutting a loss because I don't want to hold into open.
Oh, Monday.
So
You got
I
off.
took a loss there, 22. So I lost.
We gotta link up, man. And what you working on?
Coming back down to.
You working?
Bottom, 1950 is the 200.
Oh.
Sorry, the VWAP.
And you got off Monday. Like Monday you don't do nothing. Okay, well just hit me up if anything, right?
So again, it's not. I don't
Yeah.
like to be usually holding from pre-market into the open. Sometimes this will open and all of a sudden they open.
Alright, brother, bless, alright? We're looking for linking up.
This has two red flags. One is this doji here, and the second one is this topping tier. So the fact that it didn't hold 24 is not ideal.
And how much would be
I
down?
think we can still get a dip trade off of 1950. So I'm going to put my order down here. I've got my shift 1 hotkeys ready to go. So thank you guys for tuning in. Remember to be smart in the way you trade. Manage your risk. High the last 1 minute candle is 21.30. So I'm going to put my order at 21.30.
3,000 and
So I got a starter right there at 21.
$3,060.
Squeeze into a halt at 22. Halt levels at 22.
Oh,
I'm
2,300.
just going to hold this right now.
Okay, yeah.
And then I'm going to put my next order at 24. So as soon as the bell rang, I was pressing the buy button. So I got filled.
It's hard to get, man. The bar, maybe.
$20.80, $20.72, $20.80.
Yeah.
It was the open. The open was 2075. The low was 1976. So it did
Wow.
a bit, but I'm gonna look for this to gap out of the hole.
Yeah.
And then try to trade this up through 24. Retest 24, and then, you know, again, based on the action we've seen on some of these others.
Okay, well, so we keep in touch, right? I'm gonna see if I make some move and I'll let you know.
Long on UONE for a dip trade. Long 40, 30.
You gonna harvest soon too?
I'm trying to do a regular.
You said you're gonna harvest soon?
Didn't do a secondary offering pre-market.
What you just said right now?
Minute 37.50.
Okay, you have it already. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna let you know, brother. I know you got it.
Still holding full size.
All right, brother. Bless.
750. There's a call.
All right.
42.50. Sell 500 shares.
You trying to say, mama?
Dad, I don't know what the phone is at.
Your phone? It's right here.
It's right here. Dada, is that a dinosaur
So here's the
egg?
thing, if you recall, I did not want to. I'm gonna sell the rest of it at 43.12. I don't really want to hold this one into a haul. So that was with 1,000 shares, $4,883. With just 1,000 shares. In at 37.50 and selling as it squeezed up. So this is what I liked about this thing. It sold off. There wasn't a secondary offering pre-market. The bell rang, dip, and then died dip. BYFC, I talked about this one earlier. I was a little concerned about the way the pre-market faded, but you can see clearly it's halted now. So you now have 3 stocks halted. Wildcard Friday, right? UONEK. BHC hitting scanners. This one has a high the other day of 540. That's the level it needs to break. That's a nice renting green move. So I look for that over 5. BBGI hitting the scans. SHLL also hitting the scans. So UONE I didn't want to hold into the haul just because it was just up $5 a share. Too much risk. It's at the VWAP. MDIA, let's pull this one up. Light volume on this, 100,000 shares. I don't see a news catalyst, but I presume that there is one. But it's only up 14% actually. So switch back to Cone. All right, so Cone, I'm gonna put my order on this one at $23. I'm gonna put it 23.50. So I'm going to add coming out 23.50. I'm going to add coming out of the high for another squeeze up. I want to get a retest of OPHC, nice. CCHI, also nice. So I promised you if we got 5,000 likes on the last video that I would do this live stream. So you guys got the 5,000 likes, you're getting a live stream. Give me a thumbs up. I want me to do this again at some point next week. Alright. I would just alright, so let's Wildcard Friday. So how much time do we have till COHN resumes? It halted basically instantly. So resumption is going to be about 20 seconds away. I'm going to look to add on resumption. And if it goes right into another halt, then that's going to be a perfect scenario. If it doesn't, then I'll probably look to take profit and then look for the next dip to buy the dip. And I'm still going to be looking for that move up to 24. So watching resumption here. Got on the buy button. Halted at 22. Watching. No resumption yet. So it looks like it's going to be a 10-minute long halt. That means I'm just going to keep watching it for a second. Usually 10-minute long halt to open higher. Alright, UONE. Resumption on this one is going to be in about a minute. PHC. 1 minute pullback under 5. So PHC break of 5 would be a setup. Dipping down there a little bit. Bounce off VWAP is also a setup. VWAP is at 44. IMRN. Squeezing up. IMRN, I'm going to keep an eye on over here. And I'm going to watch UONE. On resumption, so we're halted at 43. I'm showing 44 right now for resumption.
That's when
UONE.
we were already noticed remember the lava slide with Jason?
So if short sellers
And we all rided it together. I wasn't even a baby at that time. I remember in my head, I slided down the big slide. I wasn't even a baby. Wait a minute. I've been there when I was a baby, and I've been there when I was 4. So that must have to be.
long right there.
Of 4 years old.
46.50. I'm at 44.89. See the rest right now. I'm going to look now for a dip trade.
Who is sending that?
44. Watch
Who's
this.
sending so much text? Mom?
Added right there. 44.
11.
Now try to buy it.
Hello.
No.
Squeeze.
Ya no se puede traer pan.
46 is an add. Watch
El
this.
del slide y el del otro.
Added 46.50. Looking for break 47. The next halt level 48. Adding at 47.80. I'm going to try to ride this
Y
momentum.
pan de manteca si tiene. What pack you want, mama say?
This 48.
Mama, what pack you want?
The white popcorn.
La blanca, yo creo que la cheddar cheese o la regular. The regular one or the one with the white one?
You know what? It grows right back.
Mine?
You want regular popcorn?
No, I just want the white popcorn.
La blanca, de cheddar.
I also want like goldfish.
¿Y quiere goldfish, dice?
The original
Goldfish.
The original goldfish. She could just get the big popcorn.
¿Y quiere goldfish?
Like the popcorn.
Y la popcorn blanca. She want goldfish and the white popcorn.
Sold too soon. But you know what? That's okay.
Y si puede buscar un pan de eso de manteca.
54. Let's wait for a dip. Wait for a dip. So you can see right here. It's
Como lo italiano, pan italiano, así es.
There's $34,000 in profit. So let's watch this for a dip.
No tiene que ir suave. Ya. Puedo buscar slide, pan de slide entonces. Tanto entonces va.
Dada, we high. We so high.
I sold the rest of my position. Now I'm going to look for a dip. Down here, watching. Just
Whoa, you're on the floor.
973.
How do the workers make the floors not break?
Pop back up over
It's magic.
holding 2,000 shares.
Dada, it's crazy because the other people that there, that's the fruit, and our floor is literally our floor, and then downstairs for the other people is literally like
The
a
ceiling.
roof. Yeah, the roof, like the ceiling. And then the ceiling for us, that is, the ceiling for us is for the other people's floor. That's cool, right?
Watching, I'm still holding at 94. Looking for dip trades now. Adding right there, $50.70. Just bought that dip. Now looking for this to rip up over 54. Hands on the buy button over 54. Try to catch the break at 54, 55. Adding right there. Looking for this to go into a halt. 16. Watch over 54. I want to see it break 54 and then go to 55. Still holding right now, looking for the break of 54. Giving it a second to dip down. Watching. Cone, still holding, watching cone, adding on cone for the break of 24. UONE, watching on the dip right here. Adding on UONE, $47.99. Adding on that dip. Trying to be aggressive. Watch UONE right through here. I'm going to add, and it breaks $49.50. Watching. Hands on the buy button. Nope, so I'm going to be holding that into the halt. It's okay. I'll look to add coming out of the halt. I've got 3,800 shares. Cone.